Hello, welcome to Ready Bet Action. And actually, welcome to our NFL draft betting preview. This is a special crossover episode. It's Ready Bet Action with Travis of the College to Canton podcast. Travis, thank you for coming on the show. Hello. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good to be here and hop on the show and talk some NFL draft and be with some of my favorite people. I mean, mostly
Yeah.
just Steve. I don't know the rest of you guys that well, but
Okay, I was going to take
okay.
that as a compliment, but
I
it's
mean,
fine.
a good first impression off air before the show started, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's a trial run. I've got it. Okay. That was not in the show notes, but now I'm aware. So you are with College to Canton podcast. Can you tell us where we can find you?
Sure, I bet Stefan can too, but we do that show. We've been doing that show. I don't know how long, Stefan? 4+ years?
Something
I
like
don't
that. Yeah.
something like that. But you can find it on RotoViz Radio. Which is RotoViz is a great site that does a bunch of fantasy football content with some tools to help you kind of win, some kind of analytics based focus with all the things that they do. But they're find the show on RotoViz Radio and on our own feed at the College to Canton feed, basically wherever you can find your podcast. So been doing that for a while, but
Yeah.
glad to hop on here.
Yeah. That's why we're so excited to have you. Stefan talks about you often, so it's nice to finally be able to
Yeah.
do a show with you.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's funny. Just I don't even know. We've known each other longer than that, Stefan. But we got to figure out a way to actually hang out in person here soon.
Yeah. Well, my parents keep threatening to move to the Nashville area, so I feel like that's just waiting to happen. It'll be perfect. But yeah, and then Travis also is one of the main dudes over at A to Z Sports. You can find all of his stuff over there. But Travis, I wanted to ask you real quick, how many mock drafts have you done this year?
Oh man, actually not as many as I wanted, just because there were so many other things I was trying to do. As we're growing the team, like there's just so many places where I've kind of like slid in and done specific work covering NFL teams that I didn't even really end up planning for. Like I've actually kind of covered the Giants a whole lot this draft cycle and the Vikings a lot this draft cycle for, various reasons. Even like the Seahawks some on top of a bunch of the college spring ball action and transfer portal nonsense. Because my main thing is that I am the college football managing editor there. So, but during draft season, really leaning into that direction. But I'd say since the first one for this class I did like last April, like a year ahead of time, it's probably been, I don't know, like 15, something like that.
Love it.
That's not bad.
Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. The Nuggets, I don't want to talk about basketball, but the Nuggets just ripping the soul out of the Lakers last night brought me great joy. So much joy.
As well as should.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue to watch that. The Nuggets just feel inevitable again to me this year, and I am absolutely loving it. So I'm watching more basketball tonight, but I'm really excited for the draft. Thursday, I'm definitely a draft observer. These two guys are going to give us a lot of great picks and bets that I will probably just tail, honestly, for the draft. I like seeing where all the chips fall, but then honestly, shortly after this draft, we should definitely be doing a NFL like win totals type show. We can do that in the springtime, but I don't get people who are betting that stuff before the draft happens. I like all the draft stuff to fall. I love seeing where all these players go, how they fit into different schemes, and then kind of deciding like, are these going to make impacts on like some win totals that I'm interested in betting, early on.
Yeah.
So that's why I like the draft. I like watching the whole thing. I'll be sitting there as much as I can this weekend, even into like the 6th, 7th round, just at least with it on in the background, in the very least, by the time we're getting down the stretch. And I just really love seeing where different players go that we've all spent a lot of time watching, because we watch a lot of college football. So it's really pretty exciting.
Can vouch for that. Also, it's just kind of cool, like you're saying, like watching somebody's like career play out in front of you and just seeing the different paths that they can go. I think it's cool. And the progression through everything. Anyways, well, we're going to try to keep on pace tonight. We're going to try to get through. We have a lot to talk about, so We'll try to keep it somewhat succinct and give you guys as much information as we can while we're doing it. Starting off, let's just dip our toes back into the history of all of this and talking just about the draft in general. Travis, you have like one of your favorite and or worst memories about the draft. What have you got?
Oh man, it's favorite and worst because in the moment I was so excited. I was, I'm a Titans fan, and so they in many years they've actually hosted a big draft party at the stadium. You go, it's a big party. There's all sorts of fun stuff for the kids. There's way too many different types of fun foods and all this just fun fanfare stuff. And you go, you get excited. And the year that they had the 5th overall pick, there was just a lot of buzz. Like everyone was pumped to see where they were going to go. And I was like, man, I really want them to, get a playmaker. Just go with Corey Davis. That might be a slight reach or whatever. I didn't think it was going to happen. And the pick happens, and it's Corey Davis. I jumped out of my seat. I've never reacted to a pick like that in my entire life. But in that moment, I just didn't think about it. I just like jumped up. I was like, yes, that's awesome. Because, it's for fantasy football purposes. I wanted somebody to root for. And then, of course, his career happened. And it just never really
happened,
came to. Yeah. I mean, every single camp, I'd go, I'd be at the practices, I'd chart reps and stuff like that. At the time, I was like, around that time, I was doing some like charting work for some SB Nation, Music City Miracle stuff, and getting really pumped because it seemed like it was so promising, and it just didn't happen. So, favorite and worst because I think I even like overdrafted him in Dynasty Fantasy Leagues that year too. So just triple bad across the board there.
I think we all have those players that we just like love, and like you just kind of become like a little obsessed with them, and you're just like, man, I really love this guy. And I don't know if it causes you to look past their flaws necessarily, but like you definitely feel for what like you follow their career. It does, and you follow their career into the NFL, and you hope they do really well, and like you're a big fan of them, kind of no matter where they land. Quick shout out to one of our loyal listeners, Sophia, aka Jibs. What's up, Jibs? Anyways,
hello, Jibs.
A live shout out.
We love you, Sophia.
So
Gracias.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you on some of those. I feel like all my draft memories like come from like just terrible picks. Like I will never forget how I felt when the Broncos took Tim Tebow. Like those kind of things, So I think it's an emotional night for fans because everyone has such strong opinions on what GM should be drafting who. So it's always funny to me to watch these fans out standing in front of these screens, like booing or cheering or whatever. It's like, they're mostly drunk. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so we've got a bittersweet award, we've got the award, and then what's yours, Stefan? What's your memory or worst memory?
Going way back, I remember when I was in high school, before, this is gonna really date me. This was before the draft was even on TV. Like you had to listen to it on the radio because there wasn't that much interest. And I was on a debate tournament up in like North Dallas area. So we were driving up there and I made the bus driver put the draft on the radio, and everyone was so annoyed with me and so bored. And I was just sitting there listening to the draft on the radio. So so I'm an old man.
In their defense, that's pretty boring.
Yeah. I also did love the COVID draft. Like it felt finally like there was some sports to be excited about because we had gone what felt like forever without sports.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that felt like the first night. I was like, there's a bit of normalcy in my life.
I remember we like planned a night to watch that because we were like, we've been watching and betting on Korean baseball, and like we finally had it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All these names of leagues I never heard of before.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, what's that saying? I see it all the time on like Instagram, like girls being like, girl, if he wanted to, he would. Like if you wanted to find some betting, you found it. Like you found Korean baseball of all things to go
We
after.
were determined.
Yeah, it's amazing.
There's a will, there's a way. Absolutely.
Love it. Okay, great. Cool. Moving on. Let's keep it precise, gentlemen. We're doing really good on time. Steve, do you want to start us off with some historical trends and just talking about, like, on average, how many players are drafted from each position? Walk us through all of that. I know there's a lot to kind of break down. Okay.
For sure. So, and this is something that I definitely wanted to chat with Travis about, because we talk about it quite a bit on the College to Canton podcast. As we try to project NFL draft capital, like, what should we expect? Like, a lot of us who play fantasy football, like, our drafts are all quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, but the NFL draft is so different. So what should we expect? Like, I was looking at some of the totals for this year, just like the projected amount of players from each position to be drafted in a given round, well, specifically the first round. And so, for example, this year, the total is set at 4.5. It's kind of the under is at plus 190. So if you think there's going to be fewer than 5 quarterbacks, you should go ahead and smash that. But I was like, okay, well, what's normal? And I thought it would be good to hear from you, Travis, kind of like what we should expect given historical trends, and what kind of seasons or what kind of draft classes produce some of these outlier situations where, like, a couple years ago, the Kenny Pickett year, like, quarterbacks just weren't drafted at all forever because there were so many concerns. And then a year like this one, where we could have the first 3 picks, potentially the first 4 picks be quarterbacks. So kind of give us a historical lens, and then maybe also what that means for this draft class. And then also from, like, a betting perspective, if there's any angles we can get from that.
Yeah, of course. So the quarterback.
And I only gave you like 5 minutes, so no pressure at all.
Yeah, just
What
the
a
entire
friend.
history of the NFL draft. Go.
Yeah.
Fun fact: the first ever drafted player didn't ever play in the NFL. So there you go. Now you know.
Hey.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, with quarterbacks, average is just under 3. If you go back to, it all depends on the sample size you're using. But if you go back to, like, the year 2000, on average, you have, like, just under 3 quarterbacks that go in round 1. Obviously, there have been a few exceptions to that where we've had some crazy numbers of quarterbacks selected, like in the 2018 class. That is the Josh Allen year and the Lamar Jackson year. We won't name the other ones. And then the 2021 year, we had Trevor Lawrence, and then RIP to everybody else. But there was 5 in that class, actually, as well. But typically when we see these classes that have a lot of guys go in the same round, a lot of them miss because people are reaching out of need more so than they are going after the true, early first round talent of these players. And I thought, hey, the league's finally getting smarter, and they're finally learning, and they're going in the right direction in 2022, and realizing, hey, there's nobody in this class that makes sense. So even like Kenny Pickett, who shouldn't have been first rounder himself, he's the only one. And so it seems like they're coming around, they're getting smarter. And then lo and behold, last year, there's all this buzz about, like, 4 going in the top 10, 4 going in the top 7. There's never even been 4 quarterbacks selected actually in the top 9 picks of any draft ever. So the only other time we saw that happen with top 10 picks was where Josh Rosen was the 10th pick in 2018. Sorry, I mentioned his name. I said I wouldn't. But so yeah, oftentimes when we include all these extra names, there's somebody that doesn't belong. And among the 6 quarterbacks who are in the mix this year, there are definitely 2 that don't belong, and maybe in the eyes of some, at least one other that doesn't as well. So this year, it seems at this point pretty chalky that we're going to see 4 top 10-ish, maybe 4 top 9-ish. Maybe they set a record and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we never see it again. But yeah, that's probably expected at this point. I'm would not be surprised at all. In fact, I've kind of expected throughout the entire draft process that Bo Nix and Uncle Penix would not actually be first rounders, despite the kind of off and on buzz that they would be. But yeah, at that position specifically, there's always, it seems like, one that kind of drops. Like last year it was Levis. Years before that, it was even like Sam Howell, and like half of the other guys, like Malik Willis and all these other guys that were supposed to go earlier and did not. So just that position more than any gets hyped up, and then there's just a little bit of a letdown on draft day in many cases where we don't see it come to fruition to the extent that the hype bubble blew it up to be.
The hype bubble.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. I don't really lean towards, whether someone should get, someone should be drafted in the first round or not. It's like, sheesh, man, you look at some of these franchises that have just been like so starved for quarterbacks. It's like, does that over 4.5 hit? Because, they're essentially been so desperate for so long, like the Raiders and the Broncos. It's like, do they just reach and take, one of these guys, and just like, it's almost like appeasing your, like, I know as a Broncos fan, I want a freaking quarterback, man. Like, and I also know it's probably not smart to take it's not smart to take one of these guys at 12, but like, like, I get it. Like, I would understand if this was the year that went over 5. I probably won't bet over 4.5, but I would get it, just be looking at the board of like, man, some of these franchises are thirsty for a quarterback.
What do you mean? You guys have Zach Wilson.
That's right.
We're not speaking of this today.
You guys just got Zach Wilson. All your problems are solved. So
that's right. That's right.
If the Broncos quarterback room is Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson next year, I will not watch a single game, and you can quote me on that.
Dude, I saw a post today. It was like Ben DiNucci, Zach Wilson, and Jared Stidham battling it out for quarterback this year, and it was just clowns like kicking each other on the basketball court.
That's so good.
That's so terrible.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it terrible?
Accurate, I mean. Accurate. That's sorry.
Yeah.
What are some of the other positions that are kind of notable from the historical perspective? Like this year, the running backs total is set at 0.5 juice, and it's juice at minus, like it's minus 1,700. So no running backs this year, but historically there have been fewer as of late. But do you want to just kind of run down some of the ones that are notable to you, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk. Yeah, we can talk through it just because, on average, historically, back to like 2000, just over 2 running backs go in the first round on average. That was much higher in the early 2000s when running backs were actually valued in the NFL, but that's gone down in recent years. I believe we're 2 or 3 years in a row where we've only had 3 go in like the first 2 rounds combined. We're not even probably going to see that this year. We're probably not going to see 3 unless something weird happens. We won't see 3 in like even round 2 this year, most likely. So, they say I'm sure I know where the juice lives on that plus 900 versus the minus 1,700 with the, like, they're basically saying like there's a 10% chance that there's a running back round 1, but that's way too high. Like it's all juiced up. Like there's no way that's true probability. It's way worse than that. It's just not happening. But wide receivers, historically, it's just over 4. We've seen a couple classes go wild, get 5, 6, whatever. But 6.5 this year. I mean, I've written up mock drafts where it was over 6. But when you start really plugging it in, after all the free agency moves and all the offensive line depth, especially this year, that might push a bunch of these wide receivers into the early second. So that 6.5 over 6.5 is like that's as much as that would be fun to it's pretty tough to bank on, especially given the historical nature of, like, typically it's like 4. Like we know it's 3. We know probably 4 for sure. After that, it's not necessarily 100% chalk that it's, everybody, anybody else is just a lock to make it. I believe it's going to be, around that 6 mark, but historically that would be a little aggressive to bet 7+. For sure. And then tight ends, it's just over 1. Offensive line of any variety, it's around 7 or so, just under that. Defensive line and edge, it's just over 7. And then it's like cornerbacks, I think it's like 4 points, about 4.5-ish there. So, but that kind of like typically frames it up. You might see 1 safety sneak in there some years, but most of the time, you don't even see 1 that's like a true, just only deep free safety kind of player, rather than a hybrid defensive back role, like a Cooper DeJean, who he's a corner, but he might play safety, that kind of thing. So that kind of like wraps up most of the position groups in terms of what we normally see. But the offensive line depth is just wild this year. So I mean, we can break that down. And people might not want to bet that because that's not even a position that many people who are really into football are like, oh yeah, I'm an offensive line expert. But I don't know we might see like 9.5 is the line right now or something. It's juiced, I guess, over, but it's wild how many we could see go off the board this year.
Yeah, the line tells us
sorry.
they expect us to be 10. So yeah.
I'm sorry to make this about race, but we're gonna bring up race on this show. Did y'all see like the whole thing last year about drafting like the all black team versus the all white team in the NFL and like putting those teams together and who would win? And like the white team is literally taking Cooper DeJean. Like we got to go get a college player because there aren't any white corners out there. It was like we had to pick him because that's like he's like all we got playing corner. Like
yeah, that's true.
I think there's one other.
Yeah.
In the entire NFL.
Yeah.
Bro.
Anyway, sorry.
Okay. I like it. Eric. No, I'm joking. I was gonna say, what does that tell us about everything? But we don't have to.
Nothing. We're not talking anymore about race. That's as deep as we go.
Stefan can fix this in post.
Yeah. I'm far too lazy for that anyway. I will say I forgot to plug in my computer, so while you guys chat a little bit, I'll be right back.
Okay, cool. Should we time them? Okay, ready, go.
Though with the offensive line, though, it's interesting to me because the tackle depth is absurd. Like so much so that even at the combine this year, a lot of these guys that are tackles, like they've played 1,500 plus tackle snaps.
Yeah.
Teams are like, hey, can you play like some center or guard maybe? Like the guys like Graham Barton, for instance, at Duke. I interviewed him, and he played center as a true freshman, like 400 snaps, but he hasn't played center in like almost 4 years. And they're like, yeah, we're just gonna move you to center. Is that cool? Like, and he's just a really dominant tackle. He's got, his arm lengths are like on the fringe of being historically, on the mark. But even so, like guys like him, and he's not alone. Like Troy Batanu from Washington, Taliesin Wanga from Oregon State. Like those guys are, hey, can you shift inside? It's just interesting. There's so much depth at the position. It's like the NFL's like, well, maybe we can turn this player into something that he's just not or hasn't been in years. Yeah. So
what would you say is like the I'm gonna ask the dumbest question in the existence of ever. What do you think is like the best wing / arm length for that position?
Well, there's not really like a necessarily like ideal, but you don't want to be for offensive tackle. Like if you're just looking at historic numbers, you don't want to be like below 33 inches. That's typically like the mark that people have kind of used for a couple of decades for offensive tackles. And his arm length, Graham Barton, that is 32 7/8. So it's like, guys, I'm sorry. Like if that's what rules him out, like I'm not sure what we're doing here. So
for real.
But
it's interesting how the scouts and people do this. I had a really good high school friend who we grew up in Colorado, and this is relevant, I promise. We grew up in Colorado. He was 6'2" 3/4 inch, and one of the best offensive linemen, like recruits in Colorado. And CU at the time, well, Dan Hawkins is an idiot, but CU at the time, being the biggest school in the country, like this is right when we didn't know CU was going to be bad for 15 more years. But they're like, no, we literally won't take you because we have a hard rule of you have to be 6'3" to be a lineman here. And they literally wouldn't take him. And so he went to University of Northern Colorado. He went somewhere else. And it's just funny how stuff like that, like some people they have this like it's almost like old school scouting of like nope, this is the measure and this is what we do and we're sticking to it. And it just kind of seems silly to me. When so many athletes have proven that they can outplay their size, especially a quarter of an inch or whatever.
Yeah. How ridiculous is this? A ride at Disneyland, or is this a professional sport? I don't know.
Well, I do wonder, like, as we kind of move on to like our favorite ways to bet the draft. I'm not a big draft better necessarily, but like I said, I will be kind of tailing what you and Stafe tell us to do. So Travis, what are kind of some of your favorite ways to look at and bet the draft? Like, what are you going to be? We'll get into specific picks here in a minute, but like, what's the general strategy for you for looking at betting the draft?
I like to, before I worked at kind of a sports betting type entity, how I played the draft was definitely different. But having worked at a company that was primarily a sports book slash, it was Mojo, the sports stock market, where we built out this sports stock market. And, the original idea was, a career bet, betting on their career long production and longevity, and their price would fall and rise with on field, performance. And that was a huge project in and of itself. But after that, we started, doing like single game like options, and so it was like overs and unders for individual games for all these players and all these different sports, and understanding where kind of like our hold percentages and like where we kind of shaded the vig to make cover like where true probability lived versus where we shaded things, knowing like user activity. And so like in normal player props, like the average fan just loves to bet overs because it's, let's just get pumped. We're going to hit the overs. We're going to smash the overs. But realistically, that's not the better bet. Like if you just straight bet 100% like unders on most prop bets for most books, you would be almost smack dab on their true probability. Like there are multiple books like DraftKings, for instance, like they shade it so much that like unders almost right on true probability, and they might shade like 6% over the top on the overs, knowing where the activity is gonna be coming in, or even more so if you're FanDuel. But so like just understanding like how books position their vig and how bad the hold is on a certain type of bet, to where like, hey, are all the pieces to this bet involved like equal to 130%? That's probably a trash bet to even try to find the right bet into. And so like it really has changed my perspective into what type of bet is even a good one to try to win. There are certain bets where I am a fan still, and I'll bet into it just because I like a player and they're betting on that. But with draft capital specifically, I like to get bet over, assuming the worst, assuming the player drops and they go later. Because they know that teams of all favorite players of all these fans and all the Michigan people, Michigan fans, Ohio State fans, they're going to bet on their players and going under. Oh, he's going way before that. Oh, he's going way before that. Oh, he's going way before that. And they know that. And so very likely, I don't know how it's distributed because I don't see the back end for them. But across the board, for the most part, they have it pretty hard shaded to the under. And so true probability in most cases lives, nearer the over. And so if I'm going to blanket any kind of bets, and I'm not going to go crazy with it because you'll get vigged out anyway in the long run. But I definitely target more overs, assuming the worst for these players. Sorry, than not.
That's what we do. We kind of always assume the worst, though, don't we? Well, that's what I do. We always end up so negative on College to Canton because we end up talking about players that frustrate the shit out of me. But yeah.
Hey, welcome back. Hi.
Hey, no, I'm plugged in now, so we're good. I lost everything else for a second there, but I'm back.
Oh, welcome back.
Much like Corey Davis.
Steve, what about you? Do you want to what are you looking for as far as general betting draft strategy before Jen walks you all through your specifics? Because I don't have any specifics, so I'll be quiet for the next 15 to 20 minutes.
I like same as Travis, the over-unders, trying to project when a player will be selected. I think a lot of the work that we do kind of analyzing from the recruiting through the whole process, we kind of have a very long-term view of these players. I feel like a lot of people jump in at the end and get super excited about a player, and that hype that builds around the fans kind of steams up the number, like you were saying, Travis. But the true value kind of lies where it's been for the last 3 years or 2 years. So I think there's a good advantage to betting that way. I also will, I will also do like the player matchups, like wide receiver X being drafted ahead of wide receiver Y, and a lot of that's just based on if I think there's some value there. I'm not very confident at all in betting like this person to go to this team. I feel like that is so difficult to hit that I avoid those because I don't think I've ever gotten one of those right.
Okay.
That's tough. Unless you're like really plugged in, that's really tough.
Yeah.
I will say I have a couple that I'm like I'm okay betting into this year just because the odds are good enough that I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be excited to hear those, jot them down, and
Yeah.
sprinkle.
And,
See, those
and we
were like,
can lose together. You know?
yeah. The other day, Eric was like, "Man, so and so's down. Whatever. If I put like $1 on it, I could win like 100." I said, "You know what's going to happen if you put $1 on it? You're going to lose that $1. Like that's
Or
what
you,
happens."
or you're gonna win. You're gonna be like, dang, why didn't I bet 100?
No,
Yes.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
true.
Yeah. That's more likely, I feel like. Eric, do you want to walk through anything else for this section?
No, I'm good. I want to hear these guys' bets.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to the juicy bits. Let's get down to it. All right. Travis, do you want to start us off with your bets?
Let's go let's do like some different bet types maybe because Stefan
Okay.
had me interested with this show sheet setup. He had like so over unders like that's like your thing, Stefan. Let's start there. So I shop around and I'm gonna find the best odds on this. But when I was looking at one particular sports book, I found Xavier Legette, wide receiver, South Carolina, and his over under line is at 33.5. So like, hey, if he's first pick in the second round, cool. But if it's later than that, I win. And so I definitely think he's going to go later than pick 33. I know there's been some buzz. I know it's fun to listen to him talk. Sounds like freaking Foghorn Leghorn. It's amazing. But
Yes.
he he took till year 5 to break out. I know his story. It wasn't perfect. But the truth is, he just, even in the year that he did break out, he only broke out because yet another player, Juice Wells, that is, missed time and basically missed the whole season just about with injury. He wasn't even supposed to have last season in year 5. And before that, he didn't do anything. So profile wise, there's really no box that are checked besides his raw athleticism. And we get suckered into that every freaking year. With certain players. And I know the NFL likes to overdraft those guys even. But overdrafting them inside the first round with zero production basically ever until their final year, I'm going to say no. So all the way the F over with Xavier Legette, South Carolina at 33.5. I found minus 20, like minus 120-ish on that, but I bet that's probably juiced based on where I looked. So yeah, going to go shopping.
Yeah, I will
Beautiful.
also be shopping for that because I love that pick. I love it. I'm going to stick with another wide receiver. Much earlier, I think this guy obviously will get drafted in the first round, probably be the third receiver off the board. But I think 8.5 is a little bit too early for me. I think we've talked about our projections about quarterbacks going super early this draft. So I'm going to go Rome Odunze over 8.5, and you get that at plus 130. Felt like pretty good value to me. I think he probably goes 9 or 10. Like I think he probably will go close to this number, but it was just a little bit too early for me, given that I think 2 wide receivers get drafted ahead of him.
Yeah, a lot of
we'll
talk
see some
about that.
offensive line.
A lot of talk about that Caleb Williams, Dunze combo potential for sure. So that's at 9. So
yeah, that would be
Did you
awesome.
see they actually took a picture together? That they like took the same
Did
flight
they?
to Detroit,
of course,
and they were throwing it together, and just today. So count it. It's official.
Amazing.
it's
Odunze to the
official.
Bears.
That
What's
lock,
crazy is Roma Dunze to be picked at exactly pick number 9 is only plus 160. Like what?
Wow.
So
That's great.
So many
Just-
things can happen. That's
just take it at plus 130 over 8.5. Yeah.
Man.
That's it, huh? Okay. Keeping it fresh. Let's keep it moving forward. Let's move on to player matchups. Travis,
Okay.
what's your pick?
So yeah, there's one place I didn't even know you could find these, but Stefan found a place where you could do this. But like you can bet basically, hey, who goes before who? And so the one I liked, JC Latham versus Taliesin Fuanga from Oregon State. JC Latham is of course the right tackle for Alabama. Fuanga the right tackle for Oregon State. Who's going to go before who? I like JC Latham It's minus 110 actually. It's very close to like even money. The most plugged in people that I've talked to believe Latham is going to go before Valanga. There's been some buzz about him going as early as like I know Mel Kiper was like, oh, he's going 5th or whatever. That's probably not going to happen. But even to the Titans, that's still like within his probability distribution. I don't think it's going to be that early either. But I think once you get down to pick 10, you could really get into the mix where Latham might go. Valanga didn't test really well. Doesn't have like the like early first round measurables. He's got that dog in him though, so like like he's fun. But I think if you just talk about the pedigree and the prototypical measurables, Latham has the edge, and that's the kind of player that goes earlier normally. So I give the edge to J.C. Latham, right tackle, Alabama, Crimson Tide. Almost said Roll Tide. I'm not going to do that.
No,
I thought you did. I thought you were going to.
No, that's not allowed on.
No, I'm an Auburn fan anyway. I can't say it jokingly. So.
Yeah. But you did say it, so I'm going to clip it, and then we're just going to use it all the time.
Dang it.
All the time.
What a monster.
Of course I am. I also have a player matchups. I'm going to go with 2 wide receivers. Two wide receivers who I think are interesting for different reasons. Xavier Worthy to me versus Adonai Mitchell. Adonai Mitchell is favored to go first. And I just do not see the production that I want to see outside of the fact that he scores in every playoff game that he's in. I don't see the production that I see with Xavier Worthy. You throw in the fact that Xavier Worthy has that just insane vertical speed. I like taking Xavier Worthy at plus money at plus 135 to be drafted ahead of Adonai Mitchell. But part of that is just because I'm not a huge Adonai Mitchell guy. And you and I have talked about that at length, Travis. But I'm curious your thoughts on this one. Would you side, because it's kind of close, plus 135 to like minus 120 or minus 150. Which way would you lean on this one?
I think even if you take away our weird fandom of this guy aside, I think Xavier Worthy running the 40 that he did, historically speaking, you don't see that kind of player with that kind of production profile to go along with it. And in this era of the NFL and analytics and on-field player tracking data that all the teams had, they already knew this guy was like a freaking alien. Xavier Worthy, that it is. I know A.D. Mitchell tested like crazy at the combine himself. Has more, impressive size, I guess, intimidating size, but doesn't actually, for the majority of his career, has not been the more complete wide receiver from a production profile standpoint, from just nuance of the game standpoint. I think most people would actually agree that is the truth. I mean, he's made some crazy big plays and crazy big moments. Had 5 touchdowns in the college football playoff games like that he's played in. It's wild, but he's also disappeared for like multiple chunks, like multiple seasons. I would lean Worthy to go before him. I think Worthy could go in like the teens even, and that wouldn't surprise me.
I love to hear that. It's confirmation. I'm going to lose a lot of money on that bet now, Travis.
Travis said to do it, so I did it.
I don't think I ever actually said to do it. I think I just,
just agreed. I hear what I want to hear sometimes. What can I say?
Hey, can you, Steve, have you found any lines? Can you bet across positions on this, or is it just player matchups on the same positions?
What I see on DraftKings and Fanatics, which is where I found these, was player matchup.
That makes sense. Like, imagine all the combinations they could put together. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Excuse me. Okay, moving on. First player taken at their position. Travis, what do you have?
Okay, so there's a lot that I like to sprinkle these sometimes just because I probably shouldn't. I mean, it takes like 5 seconds to look at the combined probabilities and know, man, their hold percentage is high. Like they know that people can bet into this and they're still going to win. But anyway, Dallas Turner, first defensive line or edge, whatever it is, off the board, is actually no juice whatsoever, despite the fact that his best historical athletic comp is basically Von Miller. And he had like a pressure percentage last year near 20%, which was like among power conference edge rushers in this class, second only behind, I believe, Latu. So really elite pass rush numbers coming from Alabama. Has the just otherworldly athleticism in his profile, and he just turned 21 in like February. Yeah, check.
Yeah.
Teams love that kind of player. I know the only other option probably in the mix realistically is Byron Young, and he's gaining steam, but he has atypical size for his particular position. And I think a lot of people would say that the Falcons are going to be the ones taking Dallas Turner, and they're pick 8. The other teams who might take Byron Murphy most likely will be picking later. So I lean plus 100, even money, basically, for Dallas Turner. I know that's saying a lot for one player, but yeah, count me in. Besides that, second tight end, actually, not first player, second off the board because there's no debate as to who's going to be the first. Jatavian Sanders, second tight end off the board, is at plus 300. And he's basically for, I don't know, over a year now, been chalk to be the second tight end. I know Ben Sinnott has been rising crazy. He had a great combine. He was basically the de facto wide receiver 1 for Kansas State at times for basically 2 years in a row. That's great. But JT Sanders has been like God's gift to the football field for a very long time at the position. He could have played as a 5-star. People coming in, he had an athlete designation because we're like, I don't know. He could be an offensive lineman or an edge rusher, a tight end, or a wide receiver. We have no idea. And it's just because he's such a fun player. The long speed surprised some that he wasn't like a 4-5 guy, but he's just a really thick dad runner who dominates anyway. So yeah, JT Sanders plus 300. I like it.
That's beautiful. I love it. Okay. Safe, what do you got?
Yeah, I do love that Jatavian Sanders. I hope it happens because he's just such a fun player. Love watching him, that vertical threat at Texas. I'm going to go with the first running back to be taken to be you, Travis. You and I both love this dude, Trey Benson, Florida State, former Oregon Duck. He's my running back 1 in the class. To get him at plus 300 just feels amazing. I love Jonathan Brooks. I was on Jonathan Brooks before everyone else thought it was cool. I don't mind saying it. In fact, I'm proud of it. But he injured. He's injured. He is still injured. And it's hard to imagine at a position like running back where injuries are such a huge concern. The shelf life is already so short for a running back. It's hard to imagine that it's more than a 50-50 shot that Jonathan Brooks is the first running back taken. And if it's not Brooks, I think it's going to be Benson. So to me, this is a value play. If this was at like minus 110 or even like plus 100, I probably wouldn't play it. But at plus 300, the value just seems too good. So I like that one a lot. And then my next one is just like a very light sprinkle on Cooper DeJean, who we have talked about before. I'll take him as the first cornerback taken at plus 1,200. Just feels like great value. Is he going to be? Most likely not. But at 1,200, I'm willing to just put a couple bucks on that one and see if it happens because he is a freak athlete. He has the capability to do so much on a football field. So plus 1,200 feels just too hard to pass up.
Yeah, when you said Eugene first, I was like, dang, I saw plus 1,200. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
Make it make sense, please.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. This is great. I'm loving this. I think Travis too, you had some just overall picks, is that right?
Yeah, sorry, I threw a bunch in there because I couldn't help
I
myself.
love it. I love the notes too.
Yeah. So Bo Nix, and I don't do this a lot, but at the combine, I talked to Tom Telesco, and when I got into basically what he looks for in quarterbacks, and this was on top of like the open forum part where he basically described, the exact man Bo Nix. Like he basically said, we were looking for Bo Nix at quarterback without saying that they're looking for Bo Nix at quarterback. All these, the leadership and the toughness and the experience. And when you get to experience, and he kept on harping on the experience note, Bo Nix has the record for quarterback starts in college football right now. It's 61. And he started 61 games because of the extra COVID eligibility that he had to stick around and play 5 full seasons. And not only play 5 full seasons, but stay healthy and still fight through injury at times to just be on the field. basically fits everything that Tom Telesco described to me. Just to keep the offense on time. Like it wasn't even like that. Like when he was asked about some trades questions, and it was more deflective about like just we want somebody who can make the right decisions, make quick decisions. Bo Nix got rid of the ball like 2.5 seconds or something this past year on average. Compare that to Caleb Williams is like 3.2. So lots of smoke since the combine that the Raiders were actually okay waiting on quarterback. Not only that, taking Bo Nix or Michael Penix, and with the buzz being that Michael Penix might go earlier than Bo Nix from sources that I trust, I'm leaning towards, hey, Bo Nix to the Raiders. Like, sign me up. I don't know if it's going to be, where they are in round 2. They might move up a little bit to get their guy, but plus 500, Bo Nix to the Raiders exactly. It doesn't even have to be first round, or doesn't have to be exactly where they are. Just 2 Raiders at some point. 5 to. I mean, that's not crazy. So yeah, I like that a lot. But you just want me to rattle these off? Just go.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's do it.
Let it rip. Let's do
JJ
this.
McCarthy is still plus money, still plus 170 to the Vikings. It's clear. Like they have not been hiding it since like the second week of February. They're very much so all in on McCarthy. The buzz has been crazy. Like I think the second week, like this was when he wasn't even chalked to be a first rounder at this point, right after the Senior Bowl. And all of a sudden, all the odds shifted to McCarthy going to the Vikings. I was like, what's going on? I started asking around, and all this buzz started coming. It's like, okay, they clearly like JJ McCarthy, and they're sitting at 11 and 23. There are like 5 spots where they could trade up to, and it wouldn't actually cost them much more than the 11 and 23 to do it, to get up into the second overall spot if they wanted to get crazy. Trading up with the Patriots, trading up with the Cardinals, trading up with the Chargers, Giants, Titans, whatever it is. There's a lot of options to move up and get their guy. He's still the favorite to go to the Vikings via basically any sports book. But for them to still offer plus money on a player that seems like, hey, this is our guy. We're screaming it from the mountain. We're screaming it. Wow. Yeah, sign me up for plus money on that.
Do you think they feel pressure to move up because the Patriots are sitting right there at 3?
It's a different Patriots organization. I think the first 3 picks are going to be, exactly who we think. It's going to be Williams. It's going to be Daniels. It's going to be May in some
order.
Yeah, Williams first, of course. But after that, I mean, Cardinals, Monty Hassenfort loves to freaking trade around, man. Like he could trade down to 11 and then trade back up. We just saw him do that last year. He traded down from 3 to 12, back up to 6 to get Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State. He might do something like that again. And he's okay losing one of the deals, as long as in the end he's on the plus money. Like last year, he destroyed the Texans on paper, but then took a hit by basically any of the trade value charts you want to look at, and lost like 20+% of premium and pick value just to get back where he needed to be. So he's not afraid to kind of gamble, as long as he's in the end in the plus spot value wise, and gets the guy that he wants. So the Cardinals might be where they go, and we might actually see 4 quarterbacks off the board. Like that's realistically, that would be crazy, but
he's so dumb.
I'm kind of rooting for it. That'd be really fun. So
yeah.
And then Broncos first position selected cornerback, plus 370 right now. And like Quinyon Mitchell and Terrion Arnold are staring them right in the face, probably at that spot. Like there's a good chance that they're both there. Pat Surtain is a good cornerback. But outside of that, like they don't have much proven depth at all at the position, and they just signed Zach Wilson, so they don't need a quarterback. So,
you just broke Eric's heart. You just broke his heart.
So much. I don't hate taking a corner and building a defense, but I do hate the idea that the Broncos don't even try a quarterback at any point in this draft.
You have the number 2 overall pick at quarterback starting for you next year, Eric.
They do. They really do. But here's the thing with Denver: like they don't even have. They don't have ammo. They don't have ammo. Like if anything, they trade down. Yeah. Because they have pick 12, and then they don't pick again until 76 right now. And they'd be a prime. Like, hey, can we please get off this pick? We can't get a quarterback anyway. Let's please move. And then they take cornerback anyway. Because there's several going later. So there's so many options for them to still get the best corner and move up somewhere in round 2 and try to finagle and get some quarterback option if they want to throw in the hat with all those freaking clowns.
Yep.
So yeah, there's just several different ways they could go about getting cornerback. That plus 370 is pretty wild to me, given the need and possible fit. Packers first position selected, also cornerback. So plus 260. Like this week, the hot name is Cooper DeJean, but there are multiple wild card options, and the Packers have shown they don't give a crap what you think about their first round pick.
It's not hey, what's up, guys?
Darnell Savage, meet this dude. Like, hey, we're gonna pick the wrong linebacker from the same school that you thought was actually worse than the other guy. Like, they don't like Quay Walker. Like, they don't care. We're gonna do whatever the heck we want. So it would not surprise me if they're like, hey, Kamari Lassiter, hey, Kool-Aid McKinstry, like somebody. I know they could go tackle. That's the odds-on favorite. But plus 260 for their second most apparent and obvious need is pretty nice. And then got a fun little goopy hedge that's kind of Titans related, but Malik Neighbors number 7 overall at plus 1,000 right now. So they've been like building up the entire draft process is this perfect weekend. You take your very serious girlfriend to this, lovely getaway. Everything's perfect. You take the sunset walk. You do the dinner. You do all the flowers, all the things. They're doing all the pre-draft nonsense to they've already bought the engagement ring for Malik Neighbors. Like all they have to do is get on one knee at pick 7 and ask him.
And, if he's there. If he's there, it's probably the scary part.
That's the scary part, but it's plus 1,000.
It's worth
it. If there are 4 quarterbacks, that happens, and pick 5 is, let's say, Marvin Harrison Jr., you got to make it one more pick. You got to make it one more pick, and that's if Rome Odunze doesn't go before. If Joe Alt doesn't go in the mix somewhere. That's if there's so many different ways. And even since the combine, again, Brian Callahan has been talking up that he prefers playmaker over tackle. And they believe it at pick 38, the Titans, that is, could get a tackle because of the depth of the class, whether that's Kingsley Suamataia or Patrick Paul or whoever. Like, they're okay because they really want a difference maker that's young, because Ridley and Hopkins are not that. So plus 1,000, number 7 to the Titans, or you can hedge alongside that and actually also bet Malik Neighbors' first wide receiver drafted at plus 700. So you bet both. Bet both. I don't necessarily argue for this type of move, but there's some buzz that Malik Neighbors is the one that goes first. So this kind of hedges
Marvin Harrison Jr. Huh?
You could get middled. And he goes to the Giants at 6 after Malik. After Marvin Harrison, it would. But this is a low unit play, and you just say, hey, look, either one of these you hit at plus 700 plus 1,000, you're clearing. So that's a fun play. And then under, I hinted at Xavier Worthy. His underline is 31.5. Absolutely not. He's going to be going before that. And then Taliesin Fuanga, I already hinted at that. Over 13.5 for him, and that's plus 122. That's all I got. But kind of emptied the holster there.
No, that's great.
That's
Xavier Worthy's got
beautiful.
I like it.
Yeah.
I love the Xavier Worthy to go in the first round one too. Crazy. Adonai Mitchell to go in the first round is minus 500, which is so stupid. And Xavier Worthy minus 108 here. Pretty. I mean, I guess if he was 32nd, but I've got one more pick.
As a Broncos fan, if Xavier Worthy goes to the Chiefs with the last pick in the first round, I might just have to go drink my sorrows away with
just shave one eyebrow.
How good
off.
that receiver room is going to be with this, it would be ridiculous.
Yeah,
protest.
Troy Franklin would be a problem too. Just saying. I do still hope Troy Franklin goes in the first. I'm going to go Blake Corum over 83.5 at plus 100. Travis, you and I talked a little bit about Blake Corum, of course, running back Michigan. If the Chargers don't draft him, he could fall. And I just think running back keeps going later and later. You were talking earlier, Travis, about how few running backs are even going day one. You think about all the names out there, Braylon Allen, Jonathan Brooks, who we talked about earlier. I could see
Trey Benson.
Yeah. I mean, he's going first. So we already mentioned that.
Yeah.
But I just like the value on this play for him to drop just a little bit. Still could be, Chargers could still get him at some point, but 83.5 just seemed a little bit too high to me. Or too low. It always is weird with the draft. I always get confused with the overs and unders. That's it for me, though. I love your plays. I really love your Xavier Worthy plays, your Malik Neighbor plays, because I'm an offensive guy. Eric always makes fun of me because I view football, both college and NFL, through fantasy football, like through DFS. And so I know so few defensive players, as you all know. So it's like all the offensive picks. I'm like, yeah, I like all of these. Let's go.
I'll be betting player props like tackles and stuff, and Stape's like, I don't even know what you just said.
Yeah, I've literally never heard of that Pro Bowl linebacker. So yeah, it's perfect.
Well, this was quite the delicious assortment of picks that you guys have laid out. So I think normally we kind of run it back. We go through all of the picks and do that. But maybe for today, we post it afterwards. What makes the most sense? Just so somebody has a place to like come back and check, because it's a lot of fantastic information.
I think we'll chop it up and get these picks out there in kind of a nibble format. But hopefully people check out the whole show. Little nibbles.
Nibble is a name of a Dutch brand of chips.
Sounds delicious.
There you go.
Cool.
If you need some very obscure like South African or Dutch or I mean whatever,
I'm your guy.
Stefan's got you. Like rare Oregon draft historic numbers, that's or why the heck not something about the Jaguars too? Just
it's really what it is.
Stefan's got you. All over it.
Don't get him started on European football, because we'll be here.
If Mark Brunell's ever a sports trivia topic specifically,
Stefan was like a professional football player though in Europe. I think that's what it was. So
they called him Steve. That's my favorite part of it.
Yeah, they called me Steve. Anyway, this has turned south quickly.
Nope. No. It's right where I want it.
Now.
This is great.
This is its own show now, Stefan. We're gonna have to rebrand this actually.
I love it. I think Travis should be a regular. I think you should come on here all the time. Or just be a part of the show. I don't know. Just saying. You're a very serious girlfriend, and we're taking you to the lake or whatever you said.
We're gonna take you a nice long stroll.
I brought a bottle of wine.
Perfect.
Beautiful. So Travis, thanks for joining us tonight. Travis is with College to Canton. You can find that podcast anywhere that you stream. It's highly worth checking out and following. Obviously, Travis is full of amazing information, bets, picks, all of it. So why wouldn't you go find him if you're not already listening to him? And Jen, Stape, and Eric are with Ready Bet Action. You can find us everywhere that you find us: X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and anywhere that you stream, like Spotify or Apple. Rate, review, subscribe, send us some love, and let us know in your questions if you have any other that you want us to go over. It's coming up hot. What's on Thursday? Yeah, Thursday at what time? What time is it?
It starts like 5 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Eastern-ish, but I don't have the exact time. I just have vivid memories of rushing home from work to get to the NFL draft, first pick. So.
Perfect. Beautiful. We might be snowed in, we might not. Who knows? In Colorado, it's TBD on the weather. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, Travis, thank you so much for joining. This was awesome. Thank you.
It was fun.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of College to Canton and Ready Bet Action, we'll see you guys next time.